by Matador Gold Technologies.
What's up, everyone? Good morning. So I'm here to talk about AI, and more specifically, my journey into AI, coming from kind of the crypto side of it, and my learnings and my kind of experimenting and experiencing so far. And it really started a few weeks ago, really, in earnest, when I was at a side event at the Collision event. And it was this like Starkware event. They had all these smart devs there. And I noticed there was kind of one guy in the crowd who was answering everyone's question. And so I went up to it and I'm like, hey, do you want to tutor me in AI? Because he was an ML student at the University of Waterloo, or a graduate actually in the master's program, so a super smart guy. And this is kind of my learnings from this kind of little relationship and tutor sessions. The way I like to conceptualize AI is kind of like a commodity. So data is just like oil or something. It starts out as crude oil in the ground, and then you make it more useful, and it gets more expensive as it goes up the supply chain. You have to refine it, and then eventually you put it in a gas station, and then eventually in your car. And oil becomes more expensive at each step of the supply chain. And AI is actually kind of similar. Data is the oil. It starts out as raw data, like crude oil, and it slowly becomes more useful to humans as it moves up the supply chain. And just like the oil refining process, that's usually the bottleneck. That's like where it adds up and the inventory adds up is in the refining process. And it's the same with data for AI. When you have all this raw data on the internet, it's unlimited, kind of like crude oil in the ground. It's the refining it, making it useful. And that means classifying it, organizing it, annotating it, labeling it. That's the refining process. And there's kind of two ways to do that. You can do that either as a human, or you can do it as a machine. And I always thought AI was like two sentient machines in the cloud talking to each other, and there's no humans needed at all. But I was surprised to learn that's not true. Humans are extremely important in the AI supply chain, and they're becoming more important as time goes on. If you see the quote there, that's from Llama 2. That's a big paper coming out from Microsoft and Meta. And they're just saying, you know, as good as these machines are getting, these language models that like write your essays for you, it's absolutely crucial to have that human feedback in it. Why are humans necessary is a great question, and that's a paradox in my head because I didn't think they were necessary. But they're really crucial because they help make it faster to train these models. They reduce training time. They help with kind of safety and ethical concerns. You can imagine if these AIs don't have any human subjectivity and ethics in it, there's problems. And they also have skill that machines don't even have yet. So if you look at self-driving cars, to this day, a lot of the labeling for like stop sign versus baby versus dog is done by humans. So, as you can imagine, because humans are needed and it's growing, the market's getting bigger too. It's growing at about a 30% CAGR. There's big startups in Silicon Valley like Scale AI, who are 10 billion plus market cap. And they were the ones that were actually helping Tesla label stop sign, baby, shopping cart with humans. And they got like a huge business just out of them. We're actually kind of speaking with one of the main guys from that growth team who's educated us a lot on how this has evolved. And yeah, if you look at that Llama paper I was talking about, it's just scaling logarithmically the amount of human annotations in these new language models. It started out at like 1 million, and then 10 million, and the most recent paper, I think, was about 100 million human annotations. And then other companies like ChatGPT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are spending, $10 and $20 million per paper on humans. But humans are part of the solution, but they're also part of the problem. So we can give ourselves a pat on the back that we're still relevant in modern tech, but we cause issues too, because humans can make the results slanted, they can be biased, they're expensive. I think that's actually a big problem. It's not just annoying that it's expensive, but it's prohibitive. So unless you're a big tech company with huge budgets and huge staff, you can't afford it. You can't afford to hire all these highly paid salaried taggers in office and lean on that. It's too expensive. So what's happening is AI is becoming more centralized. We have more big corporations that are just dominating the market, and smaller models from like academia, from enterprise, from weekend hackathons, they just can't compete with this because they can't afford humans. It's too prohibitive. So what we've been experimenting with, just as kind of a fun side project, is a new way to think about human feedback for AI. And it started out as this kind of two-sided marketplace. So on the one side, you have organizations in the long tail. What's up, Tracy? Like I said, academia, open source models, things like this, who need humans to help train their data. And on the supply side, instead of having these homogenous group of people in one office somewhere, it's a global group of taggers that are actually doing this at a bus stop. Instead of playing Candy Crush, they're actually helping train AI and making some money. Just to zoom in a bit on the demand side, so you can think of one of these organizations, let's say it's an academic organization building a experimental training language model. So the way it would work is they would take their raw data set that they own, it has to be authentic, they would upload it to the platform, they would get an auto quote based on how complex the data is, based on kind of the supply demand of where the taggers are and where the supply is. And they would wait. So they'd pay for it, and then they'd wait, and they'd have a dashboard to see the progress. And then we would provision this game, kind of like a really fun casino-style labeling game for all those who know like CAPTCHAs and stuff like that. It's like a more fun gamified version of that. And they would get points, they would get jackpots, they'd be able to spin the wheel and keep them engaged. And in the background, they're actually helping train AI, even though they don't really think about that or know it. They're just trying to make money by doing it because we share the revenue with them, but they're actually helping train AI. And once it's done, the company gets notified or the organization gets notified, and then they can export that data and get it ready to put it in the gas station into the training model, like I was saying earlier. And I think the benefit to all this is you're getting this diverse group of people making these data sets more robust than just having one group internally. And it's also a lot cheaper. You can imagine like the difference between hiring a private car for your company or just giving your employees an Uber account. It's like 10 times cheaper as well. And the last thing here is it's also more private because it's the ethos of crypto, you know? You don't need to know each other. It's kind of zero knowledge. So in this case, the people in the Philippines playing the tagging game don't necessarily need to know who the companies that uploaded the data set are. So the other side, the supply side here, is kind of the fun part. And this is just a very simple way for anyone to like launch the app when you're at a bus stop instead of playing Candy Crush, and right away you can start labeling data. So that's like, answer a question. Does this movie review look like a human did it or look like a machine did it? And that's a way to classify data. Or does this image look like a stop sign or a traffic light or a human? And then you're like pointing it or dragging and dropping. So that's kind of what the game feels like, and it's all within kind of a casino-style gamified engine. And some of the challenges with this is how can you do this at scale? Because if you have all these humans running around answering questions, you know, are they really humans? Did someone write a bot? Or are they doing it accurately? Or are they cheating? Are they just like closing their eyes and picking questions to try to make money and game the system? So that's some of the tech that has to be built, is to kind of make sure there's no bots, they're humans, and to also ensure that people are playing the game fairly. We're trying to kind of brand it train to earn. To show of hands, who remembers like Axie Infinity and play to earn, that whole thing? I thought that, you know, it went up and down like pretty wildly, but I think it's a really interesting new monetization model for people and gig workers around the world. So we're trying to like bring that ethos of play a game, earn money to a new way, but there's also a side benefit of training AI at the same time. Oh, we also have surge pricing. So it's like if there's not enough taggers, it's kind of like New Year's Eve when there's not enough Uber drivers, and you have to like pay 10 times, but you're happy because at least you have the option to get a ride home. So we're going to add that as well. So getting into this, not a lot of people believe me, but I didn't think Web3 necessarily had a role in a project like this. And over time, very organically, as I started writing this out, putting pen to paper, the same kind of words started coming up, like decentralizing Scale AI, that big Silicon Valley company, or self-custody the data, like we don't own the data that the companies upload, they keep it on their servers. Or permissionless, anyone can use it. And I'm like, I remember these words. These are Web3 words. And there's actually, I think, really nice consumer-facing incentives here that make crypto and AI, in this specific use case, work really well together. We're experimenting, kind of solving that cheating problem through a staking mechanism. So it's like, to play the game, you got to stake the native token, or maybe you don't have to, but you get bonus points if you do it. And if you start cheating or our algorithms detect that you're not mean reverting to the other players, then you get slashed. So it's kind of like a proof of stake network in some ways. Also for like micro payments, if you're in the Philippines and you want to get paid out and you want to redeem your points for cash, we're not going to send you wires and stuff. It's just cost prohibitive. So like paying it out in micro payments in tokens makes a lot more sense. Just to wrap up here, the growth side of things, that's kind of where I get excited and scared because that's how companies and experiments die. I think on the organization side, it's simple. It's just keeping a really good value prop that's better, faster, cheaper, and higher quality. And I think that's the most important thing, just having a really good use case to switch from what you're currently doing and trying to build a new, bigger pie as well. So right now, it's too expensive for a lot of the market to use humans, but now maybe we can cut that by 90%. And now there's a whole new world, kind of like Uber. So many more people use Ubers or taxi-style rides than before because Uber made it so accessible. And then on the tagger side, just to wrap up, I think there's really fun ways to get taggers. So you can have like airdrops and stuff like that, which can be very effective. You can also, I think this is the perfect use case for doing a vampire attack. Vampire attack, show of hands. Mom, have you heard of vampire attacks? No. So a vampire attack is where you have a project that has users that also has a token, or doesn't have a token, and the project that's competing with them does, and then you use your token as an incentive to poach users from other competitors that don't have a token. So anyways, if you want to learn more, check out our landing page here. It's only a few weeks old, so it's an experiment. I just wanted to share our journey, and thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you, Trevor Koverko of Polymath, Tokens.com, and Matador.